Turkey has approved Sweden's membership into NATO, lifting a major hurdle for the Nordic country's entry into the military alliance.
The Israeli army says at least 21 of its soldiers were killed in Gaza on Monday, the deadliest for its forces since their ground operation began.
Russian missile attacks on Kyiv and Kharkiv on Tuesday morning killed at least 6 people and injured dozens.
Turkish President Recep Erdogan is poised to formally sign a law which will finally allow Sweden to join NATO. It comes after the Turkish parliament approved the membership bid by 287 votes to 55, with 4 abstentions. President Erdogan lifted his objection to Sweden's bid during a NATO summit in July last year. Now, the only green light missing is from Hungary. The country's been delaying ratification, alleging that Swedish politicians have told blatant lies about the condition of Hungary's democracy. The Hungarian Prime Minister has invited his Swedish counterpart, Ulf Kristersson, to Budapest to discuss the Nordic country's entry into NATO. Sweden and Finland abandoned their traditional positions of military non-alignment to seek protection under NATO's security umbrella following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Finland joined the alliance in April, becoming NATO's 31st member.
Russian missile attacks on Kyiv and Kharkiv on Tuesday morning killed at least 6 people and injured dozens. Residential buildings were damaged, according to information provided by Ukrainian authorities. In Kharkiv, the country's second-largest city, at least 5 people were killed and 38 injured. An undetermined number of people were trapped in the rubble of a residential building. An entire section of a multi-story residential building was hit by a missile. In the capital, Kyiv, at least 1 person died, reported the head of the city administration, Roman Popko. Mayor Vitaly Klitschko said that 18 people had been injured. Residential buildings in at least 4 neighborhoods were damaged. The latest Russian attacks have attempted to find loopholes in Ukraine's defenses, using a large number of missiles and drones in an apparent effort to saturate the air defense systems. Tuesday's missile attack came a day after Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk visited Ukraine, promising to continue supporting the country against Russian invasion.
NATO has signed an over €1 billion deal to supply ammunition to Ukraine to help it defeat Russia and to replenish the dwindling stocks of its member countries. Russia's arms industry far outweighs Ukraine's, and Kyiv needs help to match Moscow's firepower.
Russia's war in Ukraine has become a battle for ammunition. So it is important that allies refill their own stocks as we continue to support Ukraine. We will support Ukraine with the systems and the weapons and the ammunition they need to prevail as a sovereign independent country. Because we cannot allow President Putin to win in Ukraine. That would be a tragedy for the Ukrainians and dangerous for all of us.
The NATO Support and Procurement Agency struck the deal on behalf of several allies, but the shells won't arrive quickly. Delivery on orders takes anywhere from 24 to 36 months, according to NATO.
At least 21 soldiers were killed in the Gaza Strip on Monday in the deadliest attack on Israel's forces since the start of the war. A rocket-propelled grenade hit a tank in central Gaza, causing 2 buildings to collapse on the soldiers inside. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has repeated his vow to press ahead until Israel crushes Hamas and frees the 100 hostages still held captive in Gaza.
לפי הידוע לנו בשלב זה, סביב השעה 4, ככל הנראה נורה טיל RPG על ידי מחבלים לעבר טנק שהבטיח את הכוח. ובמקביל לכך אירע פיצוץ של 2 מבנים דו-קומתיים. המבנים קרסו כתוצאה מהפיצוץ הזה, בשעה שמרבית הכוח נמצא בתוכם.
Israel believes Hamas commanders may be hiding in tunnels beneath Khan Yunis, the hometown of the group's top leader in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, whose location is unknown. The growing death toll and dire humanitarian situation for a ceasefire. Protests by farmers in France have taken a tragic turn after a car crashed into a roadblock erected by demonstrators in the south of the country. A woman was killed and her daughter and husband were injured in the early morning accident. Prosecutors have opened an investigation. President Emmanuel Macron expressed his condolences on X, formerly Twitter. His government is the target of much of the farmers' anger. They have blocked roads across the country in protest over falling incomes, rising costs, and what they say is excessive regulation of their sector. Local officials have also been targeted in other areas, like here, where rubbish was dumped at the gates of a prefecture. With EU elections looming, Macron has tasked his government with finding solutions to the farmers' grievances. Agriculture workers in other European countries have staged similar protests in recent days, and their concerns are expected to be a major issue as the bloc votes in June.
Germany's High Court has ruled that the far-right Die Heimat party will not receive state funding for the next 6 years because its values and goals are unconstitutional. The German government and Houses of Parliament took the party to court, presenting evidence that they said proved it was racist with anti-Muslim and anti-Semitic ideology and rejected transgender people. Pressure against the far right has been increasing in Germany after secret meetings came to light about members of the Alternative for Germany party that aims to expel millions of immigrants from the country.
9 suspects on trial for the murder of Dutch investigative journalist Peter R. de Vries in Amsterdam in 2021. Some of the defendants denied any involvement in the assassination, while others said they were asserting their right to remain silent. The popular reporter and television presenter was shot in broad daylight. He died 9 days later of his injuries at age 64. De Vries had been an advisor and confidant for a protected witness in the trial of the alleged leader and other members of a crime gang.
Over 250 people suspected of producing and selling drugs have been arrested in Albania in a huge police operation. The detainees are thought to have sold the drugs mainly near schools. According to police, a raid in the central city of Elbasan targeted members of 7 criminal groups. The government has said that the fight against drug traffickers will continue, not least to defend the safety of students.
In 2024, Europe is back in space and standing on its own 2 feet. At the opening of the 16th European Space Conference in Brussels on Tuesday, political and industrial leaders confirmed that the continent will once again be able to rely on its own launchers. The launch window is set between the 15th of June and the 31st of July. Since the end of Ariane 5 in July last year, Europe has been without its own large launcher, a situation that threatens the continent's competitiveness and security.
We have to be honest. We are facing an unprecedented crisis here. Europe has lost its independent access to space, putting at risk the sovereign deployment of the Union's flagships, Galileo, Copernicus, and soon IRIS². So regaining our sovereignty in terms of access to space is paramount if the Union is to remain a credible space actor.
The new Ariane 6 rocket was scheduled for launch in 2020, but the original schedule was too ambitious. There were other difficulties too, supply chains disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as delays in the development of new technologies.
Booster separation.
We're waiting for...
What's more, for the past 2 years, Europe has no longer been able to rely on Soyuz, Russia's spacecraft. For industry players, lessons need to be learned.
Number one, we have to make sure that we have an overlapping launcher from the previous generation and the new generation. So what we have learned from the current situation is that Ariane 5, which was of course brought out of service in July last year, should overlap at least 3-4 years with the new launcher, just to make sure or just in case. Number two, the next heavy launcher that we are now developing through a challenge process will for sure be reusable.
Ariane 6, the new launcher, is an important step towards reinforcing Europe's autonomy in terms of space policy. For the time being, Europe must also rely on a number of partners, including India and the American company SpaceX.
The nominees for Best...
After an unusual movie year marred by strikes and work stoppages, the Academy Awards showered nominations on Christopher Nolan's blockbuster biopic, Oppenheimer, which came away with a leading 13 nominations.
The world is not prepared.
Nolan's 3-hour opus, viewed as the Best Picture frontrunner, received nods for Best Picture. Acting nominations for Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr. and Emily Blunt, and multiple honours for the craft of the drama. Greta Gerwig's Barbie wasn't far behind with 8 nominations, including Best Picture, Ryan Gosling for Best Supporting Actor and 2 Best Song candidates for What Was I Made For and I'm Just Ken. But Gerwig was surprisingly left out of the Best Director field. Both Martin Scorsese's epic Killers of the Flower Moon and Yorgos Lanthimos' Poor Things were also widely celebrated. Poor Things landed 11 nods, while Killers of the Moon was nominated for 10 Oscars.
Oh.
French film Anatomy of a Fall continues its triumph in the world of cinema. After taking on European awards, it was selected for several nominations at the Oscars this year.
I'm innocent, you know that, right?